So here we are back at West China Tea with Moose Allen from Andalusia Distilling, and he's brought some interesting whiskeys, and I brought some too. And we're going to be having tea with Sohan. What do you have there, Sohan? We were playing with tea earlier.
Duck shit.
Duck shit.
I've got duck shit. And the words I'm saying are duck as in the foul, and shit as in the profane word for poop. That's right, that kind of duck. Yeah, duck. Poop. I wish I could sign that. I gotta learn how to sign
that. That was pretty good.
This is. I know that bullshit's like this, which is a great sign.
So now you gotta learn to flap your fingers.
Now it's like this.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Now you had an interesting observation about what you think tea is from your experience, and you were amazed that we're doing strange things with tea here. So what was it? What were your comments earlier about what tea is where you come from?
Either sweet or unsweet, it's sweet.
Your choices are sweet or unsweet, and you're gonna get sweet.
That's right.
Does the spoon
you get
stand
sweet
up?
or you get the fly swatter, sir.
Does the spoon stand up? Is it that sweet?
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, if I'm at a barbecue, I'll definitely drink sweet tea. You know what I'm saying? So duck shit is an oolong, and Richard, you were asking me about oolong. You're asking me if there's a particular region where oolong is from. I want to back up a little bit. Why is it called duck shit? Because I know that's probably what people want to know. When you are making oolongs, they are cultivar specific, like wine, right? Like wine grapes. So you're using one mother plant. Sometimes it's like a land race. The older breeds are like land races where it's genetically distinct but related plants that have a similar attribute. But a lot of the other ones, they're not just like the original classic ones, are clonal cultivars where you've got a mother tree, you're cloning it, you're propagating it, and it could be 20, 30 years between the time when you've decided you're going to invent a new tea breed and the time that you've got kilos of dry tea to sell at the market. And the payoff is that because you've got to clone them, you've got to raise the clones up, you don't even start taking clones until it's like 7, 8, 9 years old, the mother tree.
Okay.
Right? And then each generation of clones, maybe you can take 2 or 3 or 5 clones, depending on how big the tree is. Each generation of clones has to get 2 or 3 years old before you want to harvest from them. So it could be 20, 30 years, but the payoff at the end is that you're the only one who's got it. You can charge whatever you want for it, because tea people, probably like whiskey people, love to get something nobody else can get.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and so
that's the biggest selling point.
Yeah, exactly. They love that.
So the cloning process. Are they taking samples and then creating roots from each of the samples, or are they grafting it onto roots?
They're usually grafting. You can put them in the ground, and you can put them in a nursery and grow them up and put them in the ground. But it's a lot faster to graft them onto old rootstock. But
Cool.
But everyone's got their own way of doing it. So this is like a long. I think it was like the 19th century that this tea was developed. But duck shit was originally called Wu Jiao Zai, the dark-legged one, and the guy who grew it had issues with, so what would happen when you see a farmer, you're a tea farmer, you're a lazy ass crooked tea farmer, you see your neighbor spending this generational process to make a new tea, and the draw is that it's new and it's rare, and so you sneak over in the middle of night, in the middle of winter when nobody's even messing with the plants, you take a cutting and you go propagate that, and then you clone the clone. You take the clone and you clone the clone, and maybe it takes you 10, 15 years, but the other dude's still doing his thing too, And so by the time the originator is ready to hit the market, the thief has copied the cultivar, and they can undercut them because they haven't put all the work in. They piggybacked off this other person's process and off the other person's fame and work they're putting into it. So the guy who developed this tea originally called it Wu Jiao Zai, the dark-legged one. And when his neighbors came snooping around asking about, oh, I see you're working on a new plant, what do you call it? He said, I call this Ya Shi Xiang, which means duck shit fragrance. And it's not duck dung, it's not duck droppings. It's like the profane word shit, duck shit. And that was his form of intellectual property protection. He didn't want people cloning it, he didn't want people stealing it, so he said it was duck shit fragrance. But people are like, do they grow it with duck shit? No, they do not. Does it taste like duck shit? No, I don't think so. I don't really know, but I don't think it does.
I bet not.
Yeah.
It didn't smell like duck shit.
It definitely doesn't. I do know what duck shit smells like.
Yeah. I used to clean pools for a little while. Ducks love to shit in pools.
Oh, that makes sense. It does look a little bit like duck shit. Sometimes duck
little
shit's
bit.
green
It's
like
got
that.
some
Like
similar
green
coloration.
and green and yellow.
This does happen a lot in farming, though, where, people who don't want to put the work into it will go past a farmer's field and load up a truck of avocados or of agave or,
Yeah.
this happens quite a lot. It's not infrequent for people to be stealing from Farmer Brown. What was the name of the farmer in Lord of the Rings?
No idea.
The salmon that was Merry and Pippin. They were
Hogo?
stealing from the
Hogo.
farmer.
Hogo.
Farmer Hogo.
Yes,
Farmer
there you
Hogo.
go.
Yeah, that was him.
So you can, that's a rinse. You can pour that on your turtle.
Oh, he's thirsty.
Yeah, there you go. He's thirsty. He needs some tea. He needs some water. I'll give Chanshu some too. So I'll give you a little smell of this now that it's warmed up. I switched vessels. I'm using my Gaiwan now. This is a lower oxidation tea. I'm going to want a little more control over the temperature.
Okay.
The Gaiwan gives me more control than the teapot. Gives me less heat retention, but it gives me more control, and that's what I'm more interested in here. Is that does that control as opposed to heat retention?
If someone was only going to buy one type of teapot from your beautiful selection of teapots, which would you say this is a universal, this would work for whatever you buy here?
Mutton fat jade porcelain teapot. Yeah, mutton fat jade porcelain. It's like this clay that I'm using here. Mm-hmm. This is mutton fat jade porcelain. It's a special type of porcelain. It's unglazed, but it's highly vitrified, so it doesn't take on the flavor of the tea the way that like these guys would. So it's very neutral. You can use it for any kind of tea. You don't have to dedicate it. It's a good performance clay. It performs really well. It's slip cast, so it's not super expensive. And the quality of the ceramic's really high. So you're not paying for handmade craftsmanship. Someone did make a Gaiwan by hand, a really nice one, and they made a mold out of it. Mm-hmm. And they've been slip casting this because you can't throw this type of clay on a wheel. It's too soft. Okay. So they slip cast it, where they're basically putting it in a mold, and they do a really good job polishing it. And so what you're getting essentially is like it's really nice clay, and you're not paying extra for that craftsmanship the way that you would for like a handmade pot like this, that someone is actually building this by hand. Right, one at a time.
Now, if people aren't able to visit Austin at the West China Tea, are they able to order something like this online? Is there a website?
Yeah, westchinatea.com. We got all of our well, not all of our teawares on it, but most of our teawares on it. Some of the handmade stuff, it's one of a kind. You don't want to spend like however many hours building out the product page and the SKU and the description and inventorying it and pricing it, and then someone buys it, and then you taking professional photographs of it, and then someone buys it and it's gone.
Then you have to go update the website.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of the handmade stuff doesn't actually make it onto the website, but this guy, this is our old faithful, workhorse Gaiwan. It's really, like I said, I'm all about the quality of the clay. Clay first, craftsmanship is super important. Love good craftsmanship. But if I have to choose, I'd rather have good clay and bad craftsmanship than bad clay and good craftsmanship. That's just me.
And this oolong is from a specific region?
Yes. So now that I know we can see that map, we're going to point to it more. Oolongs in general are all from southeastern China and Taiwan. They originate here in this little region there. This is China. This is Fujian province. This is Guangdong province. Hong Kong's here, right? Taiwan's here. And so this one's from right here on the eastern edge of Guangdong province in a place called Fenghuangshan, the Phoenix Mountains. This is what you call a Phoenix oolong. The genetics that for the oolong teas bottleneck here. So tea originates here in the southwest of China, makes its way up to Sichuan, gets cultivated there, spreads out to the rest of China. Song Dynasty, maybe before it makes its way to the Guangdong, to eastern Guangdong, to the Phoenix Mountains. They start growing tea there. That's where the genetic bottleneck that led to the lineages of plants that make up the oolongs comes from, right? But they didn't make oolongs out of them. They were making them into probably green tea, right? But they were breeding them. They're getting them to these specific breeds. And then those plants made their way up, specifically Shui Xian, which is one particularly famous cultivar, Water Immortal, made its way up to Fujian, through here, and then this is the Wui Mountains right here. This is where the technique for processing oolong and making the tea that we call oolong was invented, which traditionally involves charcoal roasting, although this one's not charcoal roasted. And then you've got oolongs being grown here in the Wui Mountains. Those are the rock teas. You've got the Anchi oolongs. Those are the color types. The Phoenix oolongs, those are single bush. And then Taiwanese oolongs, they started making way later, maybe 100-something years ago. People from Fujian crossed the water, Strait of Taiwan, moved to Taiwan, started cultivating oolong there. And they call the nickname of the Taiwanese oolongs is Gaoshan oolong, high mountain oolongs. And so this is the little region where you get oolongs from.
I love oolong. Steeping after steeping, it changes a lot more dramatically to me.
Yeah.
Is that normal?
Yeah, oolong's like definitely the most diverse category of tea, and they're some of the most like dynamic and complex teas. So same, smelling, slurping, exhaling through the nose, totally different profile.
Ooh, that's earthy
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And there's like is it leftover from the rum? I'm tasting mango.
I can see mango. I got honeysuckle on the exhaled. That's like a big one. Honeysuckle, a little bit like lilac, a little bit of jasmine.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no flowers. You know what I mean? This is just like there's no bananas in the rum. There's no flowers in this. There's it's just the partial oxidation of oolong being more oxidized in green tea and less oxidized in red tea gives you access to all of these intermediary chemicals that don't exist in either end of that oxidation spectrum. They're only ephemeral. They're only somewhere in the middle. And so you get those. He's here for the shit. He came for that duck shit. Quack, quack. But yeah, you get so much complexity from oolongs for that reason. And they are subjected to way, way more processing than most teas. Oolongs as a category, they go through all these different steps. And usually the person who grows it and does the steps, 1 through 18 is a different person than the guy who does the last step, who's the roaster. He roasts it. That's the tea master who's doing the charcoal roast. Again, this one's not a charcoal roasted oolong. The traditional ones all are. This is a more modern style where you get that low oxidation, no roast, flowers, fruit, perfume, green, like this.
Wow.
And I don't think I have made this on the show yet because I don't think of a tea like this as being a good pairing for something like whiskey because whiskey's so strong. I'm always thinking like dark teas, red teas, hei chas, aged white teas.
I think we've only ever done one oolong before on the show so
It's
far.
probably a roasted one.
Yeah.
I probably did a roasted one, but let's see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, this is nice. Yeah. One of the things about traveling around and going to neat places is I like to try and find new cuisines, and I like to stop into places that I will never get the chance to go to, or I'm in a place for that one time and I'm passing through and I see a sign on the side of the road that says distillery 5 miles. I stopped at one that was called the Iowa Distillery. It was 5 miles down the road. They were closed. And but I ended up going up to a place, apparently my wife was assigned like not even a few miles from something called the Cedar Ridge Distillery. And she says, well, what are you going to do when you get here? So I made sure the first trip I went all the way up to Kansas, and I ended up meeting up with a friend up there in Kansas when we stopped. Dustin Patterson is one of our whiskey sommeliers. He's also got his own YouTube channel, stuff like that. So we stopped and went out for Kansas City barbecue. Still not Texas barbecue.
I was gonna say. A
little saucy, but it's not the same thing. But yeah, when you're in a local place, you try local stuff.
Yeah.
And the next trip, I was almost all the way there. I was maybe 5 or 6 hours away from Kansas City to get to Iowa City. And I found out that Cedar Ridge Distillery is very close to where my wife was staying. So I made plans. We took her roommate and my wife up to Cedar Ridge. Beautiful, beautiful site. They've got barrel aging in one room. They've got corporate offices in another room. They've got a giant tasting room with food. We had charcuterie. I did tasting flights. They didn't. They were drinking Diet Coke and what. But even with non-drinkers, letting them smell and see what it is that you're smelling and tasting, it's a lot more interesting. Yeah, that's fine. So I ended up going through a first initial flight and tried a few things. I ended up coming home with this quintessential and another quintessential. The other quintessential was bought in a liquor store, or actually grocery store, by my wife. And this one is a quintessential finished in apricot brandy casks. Now,
Thank you, sir.
again, we were talking about brandy with Randall, the whiskey shaman, and he spoke of that, people's perception when you talk about fruit and fruit brandies. This is something that when I was talking with Ty at Andalusia, the people coming in trying fruit brandy or trying brandy from Andalusia were a little concerned that it was going to be sweet and have a liqueur type of smell to it. But this is distillate from apricots put into casks. The casks were dumped, and then their single malt whiskey was added. So this is American single malt, which is what they're doing at Andalusia. American single malt is trying to become a new category in the United States.
Hell yeah.
With 100% barley.
Hell yeah.
So this is going to be something coming soon to a theater near you. And
it's from Iowa. It was
from
distilled in Iowa.
Distilled
It
in
was
Iowa.
fermented in Iowa.
Yep. And then it was done.
Cedar Ridge does it right, man.
Yeah.
And
They
it's
really
barley. It's malted barley.
Yeah, it's malted
It's
barley,
single malt.
100%, and then put into this apricot cask. So this is just one of a series that they do. There were a number of different cask styles to try, and this is the one I came home with.
Their cask program is pretty extensive there, from what I understand.
And they had wineries, they had grapes growing up and down the hill. It was a beautiful tasting room to hang out at. You could be indoors or outdoors. Apparently they only do tours on Saturday and Sunday, so we weren't able to go through. But we got to see bags of grain. We got to see the outside of the property.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's very, very restrained.
What is the ABV on that? 57?
Yeah, we're sitting at 57.74. So good call. That's a high proof. Yeah. It is. It is sweet. It is pretty.
Yeah.
That's big. It's got a fun, sweet, but like tart punch right at the beginning.
The quintessential that I had previous was their regular batch. It was more mulchy, barnyard, funky. This sort of tames that and makes it sweeter, rounder.
It's definitely, imagine that it's definitely got a lot more golden fruit in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it is, it's less dark and dense than their other things. While you were there, did you try any of their bourbon?
I did.
Their bourbon's pretty freaking good, man. Did you? So, I didn't know this. I find this real interesting about these guys. Their bourbon outsells every other bourbon in the state of Iowa.
Wow.
Every other one.
Wow.
More than Jack Daniels, more than Jim Beam, more than anybody. Cedar Ridge's bourbon.
Yeah, we actually got to try
excellent.
Cedar Ridge with Marshall. He actually brought a Cedar Ridge rum. And with the whiskey shaman, he brought a brandy from Cedar Ridge. So this is their malt, and this is So go back and look at those other episodes because they're
All right. Someone needs to start a distillery called Bourbon Sprawl.
There, you keep coming up with new ones.
It's too bad I'm not a distiller. I would have lots of great names, but Bourbon Sprawl.
Oh, you can get now that it's opening up, you can get some more of those barley grains, and that the little bit of barnyard mulchiness is coming up on the nose.
Yeah.
But it is just so elegant and delicate, and I think that's that brandy cask sawing off the rough edges.
It's like blonde wood, It's got that blonde wood kind of vibe. It is actually pretty good with the duck shit.
Yeah.
It's not a bad pairing with the duck shit. I think I was thinking definitely don't want to do it with the peaty one, but this is delicate enough that I think the duck shit can stand next to it.
So this is a big part of, if you've only got a day or two, there's a couple ways to travel, and having destinations along your way to stopping at a distillery along the way, stopping and meeting people that you have met that you haven't seen for a long time. People, and I used to give the same advice. It's like, don't tell everyone that you're leaving town and that you're going out because they all know that your house is unoccupied. But I've found that there are people in the whiskey community that I can meet up with that are out there, and they want to see you. Instead of waiting for them to come to Austin to visit here during events and festivals, and the Bastards Ball that you were talking about, well, I'm traveling. It's like, hey, who do I know in Kansas City? Who do I know in Iowa? Ended up Peter Schumacher shows up, and he's like on my Facebook. I went and put the post in the whiskey marketing school. He missed it, totally missed it. He was knee deep in work. So I posted that I was at this distillery, and he says, dude, you're in Iowa and you didn't stop and say hi? And then next morning, it's like, dude, I don't have much time because we've got to get like 12 hours on the road to get down the road and get home because, there's no one looking after the cats. And so we ended up stopping at a little coffee shop and met up with Peter Schumacher. So all of these little events and all of these little incidental meetings make for even if you're just flying through, having those stops and meeting with people has been making this more of an adventure. And we're going to be going to Tennessee next, so hopefully we'll meet up with some more people and stop at more distilleries along the way.
Nice. Yeah, Tennessee also has less good barbecue than Texas. It's a great place, beautiful, but the barbecue's not as good as Texas.
Address your complaints to so on at West China Tea.
No, they say this is whiskey provisioner right now. Yeah. You're dressed as a whiskey provisioner. No, I mean, I tried though. I was reading blogs and stuff. I went to Chattanooga. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like I wasn't just in Nashville or whatever. I was traveling. I was looking for it, but.
What's your favorite food to drink with to eat with whiskey?
It depends on what it is.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of Four Roses and bananas. Like just eat a banana with a glass of Four Roses. It's magnificent, man. It's
I don't know why that's so funny.
If you get the right wild turkey, sometimes it works. But Four Roses, Old Forester works pretty good too. But like a real nice Four Roses in a good, not overly ripe, but not overly green banana. It does something. Those flavors meld, and it showcases the depth of the bourbon and makes your banana taste awesome. I don't know. We were talking about like the Bananas Foster thing.
Yeah.
It kind of it goes in that direction, but there's a I don't know. There's a dance those flavors do together that work really well. Yeah. Other than that, I don't like smoky things generally with my smoky whiskeys. I want something
I'm the same way.
Bland that kind of showcases the smoke. There are things, though, adversely, when you get into maybe like a really light, nuanced single malt, maybe that's where I want that with like a big peppery steak or something.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like I can eat a steak with this whiskey.
It's weird. I've got to have, a balance. There's got to be a dark to my light. It's got to balance out.
Right. I'm the same way. That's why I don't do like smoky. When we're drinking smoky whiskeys, I don't make smoky tea. There are smoky teas, but I don't need to stack the smoke.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's fun, but I think it takes away from one thing or the other. It's like if it's the rare chance that I'm going to smoke a cigar or smoke my tobacco pipe, I don't want a big smoky whiskey because then it all just kind of goes away and I can't tell what this tobacco is, what flavors I'm getting out of it versus the smoke flavors I'm getting from the whiskey.
So oolong is adding a nuttiness.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah. No, these are nice together. This is I'm gonna be like totally honest. This whiskey's all right. It's fine. We had a lot of really good whiskeys on the show. You know what I mean? And just with you and with Whiskey Tribe and we just in general have had the opportunity to taste a lot of really nice whiskeys that I wouldn't otherwise get to try. And this one's good. It's definitely not bad. I enjoy it. Maybe if I was like just looking for a bottle of whiskey to buy, to drink, to share with people, then it would be a good one. But it's just it's kind of just middle of the road for me as far as it doesn't jump out in any particular direction. It doesn't mean I don't like it. It's just I'm so used to things being like wild and crazy.
Right.
But I do think with the tea, it's nice that anything crazier than this, you couldn't be able to pair with this tea.
Yeah.
It would overwhelm this
It goes really well.
Yeah.
They're both light,
That's one of the things when
accessible.
Yeah.
when it comes to winning contests and you have a bunch of judges judging a bunch of different things. I usually use the analogy of Bobby Flay on The Iron Chef and trying to create that one perfect bite for the judges, because the judges aren't eating the entire plate.
Right.
So a lot of times they'll end up ramping up the sour, they'll ramp up the spice, they'll ramp up the oiliness of the food. If you sat and ate the entire plate, you probably wouldn't finish it. Whereas if it was something that was a little bit more delicate, a little bit more refined, you probably would spend more time with it. So those things to win a contest, like the Iron Chef or whatever, you want to have that burst of flavor, and you want that first impression to be it's the best impression. And I think that's what you're describing, is the idea that something can be bold and impressive right off the bat. I'm going to give that, or the unexpected, I'm going to give it high marks because I didn't expect that. Or I'm going to give it low marks because that really threw me for a loop. So you're taking your chances when you're creating something that is either going to compel or dismay. Mm-hmm. And so trying to find something that's elegant in the middle of the road and elegant, it may not meet the criteria of those judges that are looking for that something out of the box.
Right.
So everything has its place, and I appreciate y'all being here for this little part of the episode. The whole idea is go out, explore, find new things, find new people, meet old friends, join us for tea at the Tea House. And if you're traveling through Austin, we'd love to have you here. It's amazing. If you're in Blanco, Texas, check out what they're doing over at Andalusia Distilling. They're doing some great things. In the next episode, you've got something special for us to try. We'll talk a little bit more about what you guys are doing down there at Andalusia, a little more about American single malt, and would love to have you join us. Or we might go out to Andalusia and do a tea festival there, or we might go to your distillery and do some tea tasting. We'll bring the tea house to you.
Out over here.
Yeah, we'll bring the tea house to you. Or if you want us to come to your event, let us know. Check out whiskeyforvisitor.com.
WestChinaTea.com. Yeah.
There we go. Cheers.